from Wild Ginger Running YouTube channel, 6:30 p.m. on a Wednesday night in the UK, and I am delighted to say that we have Ruth Croft here tonight, all the way from New Zealand. It's 5:30 in the morning over there, so give her a big round of applause. So hey Ruth, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Brilliant, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for getting up so early in the morning. And there is a funny story around that, isn't there? Because
yes, I did actually. I got confused with the dates because it was the first in New Zealand yesterday, and so I got up yesterday morning. So I've had a practice run through and made sure I made the right time today.
Fantastic. I do feel bad not even Googling the whole date time difference, especially as I've actually been to New Zealand before, but usually I just do the time difference and it's the same day, so yeah.
No worries at all.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm just going to read out a few of your main achievements here, just in case some people who've been living in a cave don't know who Ruth Croft is. So you won a lot of races in France, I see. Starting in 2016 when you won the CCC at UTMB. And then there's Les Templiers, 75k, 2017. And then, brilliantly, you've won the Mont Blanc Marathon and the OCC at the UTMB twice in 2018 and 2019 as well. So, yeah, congratulations. You're no stranger to the podium.
Yeah, no, it's been a good last couple of years. When I moved back from Taiwan, I moved to New Zealand, and it kind of helped, I think, a lot with the training, just being in a bit of a better environment to train for the races in Europe. So it definitely made a difference.
Yeah. It definitely did, because you had a cracking 2019 in particular. So you must be feeling it now that we're not doing any races. Like 2020, does it feel a bit of a washout to you, or are you having a nice rest?
To be honest, I've quite enjoyed the lockdown and the time in New Zealand, because when I am in Europe, it's a lot of moving about. I'm not in one place, and I don't have that sense of feeling very grounded. And so this is the longest I've spent in New Zealand in a number of years. So it's kind of given me a chance to get that sense of feeling more grounded and, not having to think ahead of what's going on. It's just okay, you're in New Zealand and just make the best of the situation. So I'm also I think I'm pretty fortunate. I'm not homeschooling kids or trying to work from home in that sense. So my situation is, a lot different to a lot of other people, which I know can be a struggle for many at this time.
Yeah, it definitely. I would not like to have a brace of kids running around the house and trying to do work. So we're going to talk to you today about this amazing training plan that you have going with a company called Vert Run, which we're going to hear more about in a moment. But I just wanted to set the scene a little bit first about you before we talk about that ultra training plan and get people's questions involved. So can you just give us a little brief overview as to how you got into running in the first place and sort of how you got into the trail side of things?
Yeah, well, I ran competitively probably from the age of 14 in New Zealand, and I represented New Zealand at the World Junior Cross Country Athletics and mountain running, and that kind of progressed to getting an athletic scholarship at the University of Portland in Oregon. So I was in the US for 4 years competing there, and it wasn't the right environment for me at the time. I had a lot of injuries and my running actually probably got worse. After graduation, I decided to give up running and I moved to Taipei, Taiwan. And I initially taught English there and didn't want to run. Had kind of fallen out of it, and then after about 6 months of drinking too much and partying too much, and I put on a lot of weight, I decided to get back into running just for my health, and then used running as a way of traveling at the time. So I'd go to Japan and do the Mount Fuji ascent, or to Malaysia and do the Mount Kinabalu climb-a-thon, and it was kind of just a way of traveling, and then things kind of progressed and I really enjoyed that trail running aspect and kind of fell back in love with the sport, or more so with trail running, and just progressed from there. And then I started working for Garmin and got some sponsorship from that, and that helped me financially to then be able to get over to Europe to race during the summer. So it's just been flowing on from that, really.
Brilliant. And I love how you got into trails as well. And so what do you like most about the trail aspect of running? Because obviously you went to the US and you did the track and the cross country. What do you like most about trail running?
Well, in the US it was very structured, and it's a lot more, I found it a lot more cutthroat, especially in the university scene. And trail for me, it was brought a lot more freedom. And at the time I was doing it on my own terms. I kind of liked that, and just the variety that you can get in different races and the places it took me, and also the people you meet. I had just a very much more laid back scene, which I think I was needing at the time.
Yeah, it's really friendly, isn't it? And like you said, it is a great way to see the world through trail running. I love racing all over the world as well. Filming the races. And so I can see that you've done really, like, you've had a lot of success at, like, it's ultra, so it's not short, but some of the kind of the shorter side of the ultras. And I saw in one of your films that you said when you have to get poles out, you think probably that's not a race for you. What was like your favourite distance to race, would you say?
I'd say around the 50k up to 50-mile distance. Yeah, I really like running. I don't think I'm very good over really technical terrain, and as you said, I don't like that distance where you need to use poles or a lot of hiking is involved.
So you like the actual running, and you can sort of run 50k to 50 miles, and that brings us on nicely to your training plan, which does train people in a city for like distances around 50k to 50 miles. But before we get onto that, I just want to give you a little taste of who's watching tonight. So we've got so people, like, they write in on the live chat, so I'm just going to read out a few names so that you know that there's tons of people watching. So we've got Biker Bob, we've got Ruth, we've got Simon, we've got Nigel, we've got John Gardner, I've got a question from him later on as well, we've got Guy Greaterex, Ruth, Ruzanne123, so we've got tons of people watching, and we will be covering some Patreon questions later, and if you've got any questions on the live chat, then fire away. We have Ruth Croft here chatting all about ultra tonight and coaching. So let's move on to talking about Vert Run and this amazing training plan you've got with them. I'm just going to pop it up on the screen just now so people can see what it looks like. There's a really nice picture of you, sort of like, you know, the ones with all the hands. Everyone's like slapping hands. It's on their website.
At Mont Blanc.
So how did it come about, that association with Vert Run, the coaching company? Like, did they say to you, can you make this particular training plan, or did you decide what you were going to do?
So I met Kirsten and Moya a few years ago, and then they reached out earlier this year and asked if I would be interested in doing a training plan for Vert Run, and they kind of gave me the freedom to decide what I would want to do. And so, I kind of lean more down the training people for living in a densely populated city, because that's the experience that I've had from Taipei, Taiwan. And so then, I just decided to design a plan with that in mind.
Fantastic. And so how does Vert Run work? Like, how would you describe it for anybody who doesn't really know what it is?
Well, they've got a ton of training plans there, so they've got some ones that are for free, or you can sign up for their monthly training plans, and that can give you access to other plans designed by, they've had Hilary Allen, Pascal Eagley from Switzerland, and then Dylan Bauman, and they've got a real range from like 20k up until your ultra distances, for people who live in the city, people who are time crunched, so you name it, they've pretty much got it covered.
Yeah, they really have. I've just put, while you were saying all that, I was just putting up some screen grabs from the website so that everybody could see what types of training plans there are. And there's a really nice list of people like Pascal Eagley, Dylan Bowman, Hilary Allen, and Vlad Ixel as well. So
true.
It's really nice to see. Like, it's nice to be coached by someone who really knows what the game is all about, isn't it? Yeah,
and everyone's got a different style as well of coaching too.
Yeah, and it's really nice. I saw on Vert Run that there's you can sign up to any training plan for 7 days for free to start with. So it seems like a no-brainer that you could just kind of go on there and just see what happens.
Yeah, and see if it's what you're looking for or not. Totally.
Yeah. And so your training plan is a 14-week program. So that obviously like took you some time to design. When you were thinking about it, what kind of barriers did you see from your experiences in Taiwan? What kind of barriers were there for people living in cities like that and trying to train for these kind of really long kind of mountainous ultras?
Yeah, it's just that most people not having any access to hills, so you really have to kind of get creative in different ways of emulating what like you're going to expect to see in a trail race. And also another downside as well is you had to think about is they aren't able to practice that downhill running too. So you had to think of different ways that you can help build up those muscles, so that on the first downhill in a race they don't blow out. And so that's where like a lot of strength and conditioning I think comes in. We can really work on building up strong muscles there. So they were the main things. And also I know training in a city is quite mentally challenging, and so I tried to add quite a bit of variety in there to help, because I know it's probably a bit more variety than what I would have put in a standard training program for someone who has trails right out their door.
It is really interesting, because so many of us do live in a big city, don't they? So I think it's really nice that you've designed an ultra plan specifically for that. But you did talk in the kind of the little bit about you on the Vert Run website. You said that there are also some benefits of running in cities, like there's lots of people to run with. So I thought that was really good as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I think. When you're living in a city, you really need to draw on that community that you can have there, because that can take your mind off the fact that you are running in a city on a concrete path. And another thing I also thought about is, I've forgotten.
Is it music?
You can use music, but yeah, as you said, like the community, really drawing on that and making the most of having them there.
Yeah, definitely. It's really good to pass the time, to have a chat with someone. It really motivates you. And to meet somebody is really motivational, and you're not going to back out of that one. Sorry.
Like what I found from my experience as well is that like living in a city, it makes you mentally a lot tougher. Because you've had to go for a lot to get on that start line. And so I think the best way as well is to also make the most of what you do have, and don't try to compare yourself to other people and what they are able to train on, and just make the most of your situation, because you can totally live in a city and be prepared for a trail race in the mountains.
It's definitely possible, especially with your new training plan. Fantastic. And so how important do you think is it to enjoy the whole 14-week process? That's something that you also touched on the website.
Yeah, well, as I like to say, like a race is just one day of your whole training program. So for the majority of the other time, like if you're not enjoying it, you really have to question why you're doing it in the first place, because you're really going to struggle on race day, I think, if you don't have that motivation and passion behind you. So yeah, that's something that people I coach now, is just that to really enjoy the process, because it is a major part of what you're doing, and to really know why you're doing it in the first place.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we often talk about like having a race as a goal to kind of like motivate us to go out and train, but it's nice to sort of turn that on its head and just be like, well, enjoy this whole journey, because the race is just one day. I really like that. Yeah. So I'm going to come on to some patron questions now. So patrons are the people who support me monthly. If people want to join up on Patreon, there's a little thing just under the logo just here, patreon.com/voltage running, and this means that I will now ask Ruth your questions. So we have some people who are big fans, first of all, that just wanted to say that they really like you. So Scott Bartlett, he just wants to say, I put about the chat with you in the Facebook group, and he said this sounds amazing. So he's obviously a big fan. Thanks for that, Scott. And then John Gardner, who has got a question a little bit later on as well, he says Ruth will be a terrific guest, Claire. She is one of the world's best at 50k and so strong climbing and running both. She has that great Kiwi competitive spirit.
Thanks.
So there you go. We've made you blush to start with, and now we've got a training question from Kelly Benedetti. She wants to know how little training she can get away with to finish a 50k or a 50 miler without the fear of missing every cutoff, because she has a really physical, like 7-day-a-week career, and she can't risk being constantly tired or sore.
Yeah, well, I think it depends how long you have to prepare for that 50k. But say you've got 12 weeks, I think it's about just getting some consistency in there. It doesn't need to be long runs, but maybe in the weekend when you hopefully do have a bit more time, you can get some time on your feet. But I think, you don't have to train for hours and hours every day for a 50k. But the main thing is getting out the door like 4 times, I would say, 4 times a week. And doing that, and sometimes it's better to go into a race not overcooking yourself as well. So have done the training, but then like being on top of your sleep and nutrition and that. So not just looking at as training as the only way to getting on that start line. But I think there is definitely ways to be on the start line not having done a lot of training. You can get away with it. But it's hard to answer this question when you don't know the full extent of the person, how long they have, because it needs to be very personalized. But I could say you could get away with like 5 hours of training a week would be possible.
That's very interesting. And she says she has a really physical job, so I'm assuming so she's already training, sort of.
Yeah, so you need to take that into account as well.
Yeah, so 5 hours training a week is all you need for a 50k or 50 miles. You heard it here first, everyone. Fab. Okay, so the next question is from John Moisey, who wants a little bit of advice or information on speedwork. So he's kind of interested in what sort of speedwork you personally incorporate for your ultra running distances. And then I suppose we should kind of extrapolate that into some kind of general speedwork advice, because I think people think, ultra, I'll just do a load of slow running. But do you still need the speedwork? What do you do? Yeah,
you definitely still need your speedwork. You need to work on your fast twitch fibers, and so some ways you can do that, which I've included in the program as well, as through strides. Doing them once or twice a week. That works on your leg turnover and your running economy, because if you're always running slow, like you're not going to be able to move within the different pace zones. So I always recommend hill strides you can start with, and hill strides take away some of that impact that you can have on running on the flat. And then after you've done some hill strides for some weeks, you can then transition onto the flat. Some other ways is in your long runs, just adding some surges. Surges are probably about your 5k pace, and you could do them for a minute. Have go back to 5 minutes of your endurance pace running. You could do, say, 6 to 8 surges in your long run. Or there's different ways in your long run you could finish with, like we call it, smelling the barn, where in like the last 10 minutes of your run you just kind of speed up. You're not going all out by no means, but you're just kicking it up a gear, getting the legs moving like you're going to kind of finish a race. So there's lots of different ways you can add speed work into your training, and also have it not take too long to recover from either, like a high intensity speed session would. So I think, so you can add surges, you've got your strides, and then just finishing the last part of your long run with 10 minutes, just kicking it up a gear. But I really recommend doing speed work, because I think it is, once you start dipping into ultras, you think, I need to run long, I need to run slow, like all the time. But I think if you find that you concentrate on some speed work, it will help you in your longer runs, in your ultras.
And I just wanted to go back into the smelling the barn thing. Is that a New Zealand phrase? Is there often a barn at the end of a race?
I've not heard that. I think I read it from an American coach actually smelling the barn.
Oh,
it might have been Jack Daniels. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's just like, you're nearly home, you're nearly at the finish, so you kind of like, you want to get home quicker, so you just kick it up a gear.
Like smell the cookies, or like smell the home-baked bread or something like that. Yeah, maybe a lot of races in America used to start from a big barn in a field or something. Yeah. For us here in the UK, it would be like smell the town hall, because sometimes the races start from some kind of community centre or a town hall.
Yeah. Adjusted for that.
Yeah. That's really interesting, and I think that's really interesting, the examples that you gave, like adding the slightly faster bits to your long run and doing the strides and the surges. So you don't necessarily advocate just doing a speed session and then everything else just a slow session. Like you're sort of building little bits of speed into a lot of sessions. That's really interesting.
Well, I do recommend doing speed sessions. It just is hard it depends whereabouts you are in your training cycle, and what phase, but I do believe that you can have speed work going throughout, from your base phase through to your race day, some form of speed work. So you can definitely do speed sessions, specific speed sessions, but I think like surges and hill strides and just finishing long runs fast is great ways you can incorporate that kind of throughout your season. And especially at the beginning, like the strides and then the surges can kind of help you get your body ready to transition if you're going to do more a speed focused phase than going straight from base where you're just doing some more aerobic work and then you transition to a speed session phase. Your strides and your surges can help bridge that gap to get your body ready for the speed phase, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're never not neglecting the speed, you're always doing a little bit of speed. Yeah.
It should be going throughout. It just totally depends on the person and what they're training for and how they're going to approach it.
Okay, that makes total sense. And I've just read on the live chat, Nigel Barnett, he says smell the bar. Is that what you said? Not smell the barn?
I said smell the barn, but
I thought you said smell the barn as well, but he is gone smell the bar. I'm all for that. Maybe it is smell the bar.
We can make it smell the bar.
Yeasty, beery. A lot of trail runners run just for beer, don't they? So And then Inez Hodgson, I'm not sure where Inez is from, but she says we use the phrase "the horse can smell the stable." Maybe it's like that, smell the barn, like horses. Americans, like they have a big history of like riding around on horses, don't they? Okay, well we've sorted that one out. Fab. Okay, well that was brilliant advice on speed. I really love that. That's really cool. And then Gillian Close says she's really interested for this chat, and she would like to know if for some reason like you can't make a session, like do you skip it, do you catch it up, or like depending on what session it is, like do you kind of switch it to another day? What are your thoughts on things like that when you're using your training plan?
It depends on the situation, but for example, I had a female coach last week who we had the plan all for the week and then she got sick, and she was better by the end of the week, and she's like, well, should I try and catch those sessions up? And I'm just like, no, like the plan changed altogether. So she was supposed to have a long run on the Saturday, and we just changed it to a 40-minute easy run because she'd been sick. And most of the time, I don't think you should try and catch sessions up. I think the plan needs to be adjusted to why you missed that session or earlier in the week. Sometimes you can change things around, but for the most part, I think you kind of either get back to the plan where it is, because otherwise if you're trying to catch up, then it's going to normally affect your next week training as well. So it's best about communicating with your coach as to why you can't do the sessions, and then either changing some things around or just getting back onto the program of how it should be. That's interesting, because I think a lot of people, they feel guilty, don't they, and then they're like, oh, I must just cram that in, and then they end up not getting better quickly or injured. Exactly. Like there's nothing worse than trying to catch up and cramming things in. I wouldn't recommend that. And I just wanted to put something up on the screen here about the plans that you can get with Vert Run, because you can, on one of the first plan that you do, like there's the free stuff obviously, and then
then there's a $25 a month plan, and in that you get like 2 kind of weekly contact points with your coach. So that's the kind of thing, the missing of sessions, that's the kind of thing that you would sort of you'd be able to ask if you were on that plan. And if you're on premium, obviously, like, you just reach out to your coach at any time, it says, by phone, text or email, which sounds amazing. So you can get direct answers to all of your questions within 24 hours on the $25 a month plan. So that just sounds like a really good option for anyone who's like starting to take their training a little bit more seriously and wants to know, you know, whether, you know, cramming would work or not. That's fab. Okay, so then I know you mentioned this earlier because of the nature of the training plan from the city and training for the ultra in the city. So John Gardner has got a question about the strength training side of things. So he says, what's most important to you when you're strength training? But I think we should also talk about like what kinds of exercises you can do like in your house or in your city to sort of strengthen up those legs for the ultra running and the like the downhills like you were talking about. So what kind of strength training do you usually sort of do or tell other people to do?
So in the program specifically, it's still stuff that people can do from home. They don't necessarily need to go to a gym. And what I believe is important for building out those muscles, as I said earlier, for the downhill, is doing some forward or backward lunges, like tracking your knee as well and making sure they're not collapsing in or collapsing out. Some squats, working on really working on building up your hamstring and your glute muscles. And then a lot of like glute bridges and a lot of body weight kind of exercises that you can do. And then personally, what I do, if I normally go to the gym twice a week, and even in the Vert Run program, I suggest people to do it twice a week. I think once a week is maintenance, and then if you really want to make some gains in that, twice a week is necessary. But in a gym, it just gives me a bit more access to more weights, so that as you progress, you can kind of start adding the weights and making more improvements there. But if you don't have access to a gym, you can totally do a lot in your own living room without that.
I like when I'm doing like little like videos on strength stuff, I often say like make it harder by wearing a backpack and then weigh it down with water. So like I presume like they could weigh the backpack each time, like rather than like at a gym you just use the next thing in the rack. But you could do that. Like in lockdown, I didn't have access to a gym, and you can use your like LPG bottle from your, if you have a barbecue, stuff like that. You can have sacks of fertilizer. Like a big gas thing, You just need to get creative. You just need to get creative and find the heavy things and then pick them up without hurting your back. You've frozen on the screen for a second there, Ruth. Hopefully. Oh, there you are. You just did a little freeze on the screen. I could still hear you, but so you were saying heavy stuff, find the heavy stuff, pick it up. Did you see on Twitter Ellie Greenwood? She was training with her 2 Western States trophies, because they're like these giant, like, I don't know what they are, like dragons or something, and they're really heavy. So she had like one on each shoulder and she was doing squats, but she said they were really uncomfortable. Serves her right for doing it with such amazing trophies. So that's good, and that's really interesting that you talked about what kinds of exercises to do, like forward lunges, backward lunges, and lots of squats, because that's really simple, isn't it? Like everybody sort of knows them or can Google them. How would you start off kind of incorporating that in your training plan? Would you like do 10 or 15, or like if you haven't done it before, what would you suggest?
I would start with like a set of 6. So you do 6 reverse lunges, 6 on each foot. And then as you progress, you could get up to 8 or 10, and then do 3 sets. I normally say doing 3 sets or something. And then once that gets too easy, you could add milk cartons on holding both sides of your body. So then that's a level up. And then with the squats, the same, just doing simple squats with no weight. Start with 6 and then work up to 8, and then be doing 3 sets of that. And then once that's easy, you can add some weight. And then the same with the glute bridges. That would just be lying on your back in the bridge position, raising your hips up squeezing your glutes, checking that they're activated, and then releasing back down. And you could start with 6 sets of that, work up to 8, and then do 3 sets. And then if that's getting too easy, you need to challenge yourself there. You can then add some weight across your hips as well. So you're pushing up more weight there. And then other stuff, I also put an emphasis on core, because we know core is really important. And that was the same as you can start with just basic prone holds. Then you can do, from that you can progress to like your shoulder taps and keeping it slow and in control. Main thing is a lot of the time is just slow and in control, because I think a lot of people get their strength program, and it's something I think especially with runners, we're like, oh, the strength program, like it's not really that important, or I'll do this, I'll just get through this quickly, and we rush all the exercises and don't do it properly, and so kind of miss the whole point of having a strength and conditioning program. But even personally, I've found when I started incorporating more strength and conditioning into my running, it's just helped me stay injury free, and able to get through the whole racing season without having any niggles or that. So yeah, I really do value it and think it's really worth putting in the 2 times a week into your schedule.
Yeah, it's just so interesting. So many people that I talk to on these live chats, all the elite athletes say, if I had done anything sooner, it would have been strength work, like once a week, twice a week. I would have done that. And it's really easy, isn't it? But it's just really boring. Like how like, because you must do it. Like, you're an amazing athlete. You get on and you just do it. Like, do you need to motivate yourself to do it, or do you just go, oh, I've just got to do it? Do you have to like fire yourself up with some good music or anything?
No, it's just part of it. Yeah. And so I have a strength and conditioning coach, and so she changes my program every 4 weeks normally. So I think that helps. If you change the program up, you're not just doing the same exercises, because you got to remember your body adapts. So there's no point in keep doing those lunges for like 2 months or whatever. And then I just put a podcast in and listen to a podcast, and so then you're like learning something and you're doing your strength and conditioning. So yeah,
that's a really good tip. I love that. And this chat will be available on the Wild Ginger Running podcast tomorrow. So thank you for that link there. That's great. And on the live chat, Ruth, who's listening in, and she says, great name, by the way. She says her glutes are burning just from listening to Ruth.
No, but a lot of runners do have weak glutes, so it can, it's definitely worth the time.
Definitely. And Elle Haynes says, injury free, the holy grail. Yes, well, if only we all did our exercises, runners. And that's interesting that you said that you have a coach for your strength and conditioning. I've just written down, do you have a coach, as one of the questions that I wanted to ask you. Do you have a couple of coaches then, or just the one?
So I'm based in Wanaka in New Zealand, normally in the summer, and I have a strength and conditioning coach there. So we put quite a lot of emphasis on, like in my off season, which is my base building kind of time, a lot of emphasis on a periodized strength and conditioning program. And I have her for that. And then my running coach is Jono White, the Kiwi mountain runner. So he does the running side of things.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. And that's fab. So, because a lot of the runners here in the UK, like the fell runners, like they don't have coaches and things, and they just coach themselves. So did you used to coach yourself, and then you found that coaching helped you, or how did it happen?
Yeah, when I was in Taiwan, I was just doing my own thing, and coaching myself. And then I just got to a point where as runners, I think we know what we need to do in that, but sometimes we get a bit carried away and try to push the envelope a bit too much and think we're superhuman. So that's where it's great to have a coach, like especially with Jono, and tell me like, no, that's a stupid idea, like rein it back. So it's just, he's, for me, Jono, he's a coach, but also a really good friend. And so we have quite a good relationship. And so it's good to have someone else to check in on you, I think. But it's totally fine to do it on your own, but sometimes you miss things that a coach would otherwise pick up on.
Yeah, and you can sort of be blind to things that you do sort of know, don't you? Like you said, you're just like, oh, I just want to run, but a coach will be like, no, you've got to do this. And I find when I'm coached by someone, if they put stuff on the list of things to do, I will do it. But if I put stuff on the list to do, I'm just like, I'll just do this work here.
You'll end up end up only doing things that your strengths as well, sometimes things you like to do, so you'll continue to do those sort of training sessions and kind of miss the stuff that you probably need to actually really work on. So that's where a coach is better at looking at the bigger picture of where you need to be heading with your training.
Yeah, exactly that. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. And just earlier when we were chatting, you did say that you are studying right now and you're doing some nutrition and some kind of alternative sort of medicinal therapies kind of training. And we have a question here from Ruth Ellis, who says, love the name, obviously, and she says, how important do you think nutrition is when following a training plan, and what is it like during leading up to a race? So can you just take us through a little bit about ideal nutrition?
It depends on the person. It's kind of, I find it really hard to generalize a response to this, but for me, I think it's not about restricting yourself. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. Like at the moment, you've got paleo, keto, low carb, high fat, all these different diets and that. And I think the main thing is just to eat whole foods, plenty of veggies and fruit and whole grains, stay away from processed foods, and then just finding what works for your body more so than what keto says you should do or what paleo says you should do. So I think that's the main thing. And then also I think for females, a good thing is to get your blood tests as well, because females quite often are low in iron. So there's nothing worse than to be doing all this training but not helping yourself by being low in iron in the first place. So I think, your diet it's not about restricting yourself and saying I can't eat this. I think that does you worse in the long run. But as I said, just staying away from processed foods, make sure you're getting enough and not overeating as well. And then it's not just nutrition either. It's about your stress at work or your stress in your life and trying to minimize that and getting good sleep for recovery as well. And I've also been listening to a lot. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Stacy Sims.
Oh, I have. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's also in relation to females. It's training around your cycle in ways in your luteal phase or your follicular phase, like when you should be doing more high intensity work or when you should be doing more low intensity work as well. So that's really, really if you're looking for a good book to read about that for females and training, it's called Raw, and that can give you a good idea, because a lot of training in the past has been on men and not taking in the different hormone levels that women go through in their cycle. So that's also really important. Yeah. And there's ways you can manipulate your diet as well when you're going through that high hormone phase in your luteal phase. Yeah,
that's so interesting. So does Jono sort of build that into your plan then, or is that just something that you then take?
He doesn't, because there's another way of looking at it as well, is that you can never change the date of a race. So so you need to really be able to train at any phase of your menstrual cycle. So there's that way of looking at it, but there is also times you can be more aware of what's going on with your body, I'm in the high hormone phase at the moment, so my recovery is not going to be as good. I'm not going to be able to push to that VO2 max as much. But then there's also ways your diet, you can help mitigate those effects as well.
Okay, well, I'll have to look up that book from Stacy Sims and put it in the show notes or in the YouTube description below, so people can have a look at that, because that's really interesting. I think a lot more people are becoming wise to that nowadays. Now that we're in the 21st century and people have realised our uteruses don't fall out if we run fast, it's really interesting to know that we do have a different hormone cycle to men. It's monthly rather than 24 hours, and so we probably need to train a little bit differently. So that's really good to know, and it's really good to have that resource.
But also and then on the nutrition thing, I think your race day nutrition is massive, especially if you're doing ultras, because you have a higher chance of getting GI distress. So it's really important in your long runs building up to your race. A lot of people probably have heard this, is to practice your race day nutrition. And the main things you want to be looking at is your carb intake, your hydration intake, and then if caffeine. So I think a lot of people don't focus on the nutrition for race day because they're so focused on the running training. But it's like, I think most ultras people pull out because of GI distress. So it's really important to look into that as well.
Yeah, has that ever happened to you on a race? Have you ever sort of been partway through and you've just gone, oh God, this is really terrible? Like, I know, I think, did Holly Page, she had a big problem at the UTMB this year, and she just was like vomiting halfway around and just carried on anyway because she's a northerner. But does it happen to you, even though you've kind of tried so many different things? Can it just happen?
Yeah, well, it happened to me at Lavaredo in 2017, I think it was. I was throwing up at 70K. Yeah. But since that, it hasn't, touch wood, it hasn't happened. But I've kind of changed my nutrition. At that time, I was kind of mixing solids and gels and powders and that, and so kind of moved away from that. And now I thought my nutrition plan was pretty good, but recently I've been trying to up the carbohydrate intake per hour and get my body used to that. So that's been the goal recently. But yeah, touch wood, I don't have any more issues with the nutrition.
Yeah, and do you use a certain brand of gels or anything? I know a lot of athletes, they go for like one particular one when they find it works.
Yeah, so I've started using Morton.
Same as Kilian.
Which is, and it's more popular with the road running crowd, I think, as well. Not so much trail, but they've got a powder that you can get 80 grams of carbohydrate per serve, which is actually really high considering most gels only have 25 grams of carbohydrate per hour. That's what I use.
I've tried some of that, and the gels are really interesting, aren't they? Because they're they're sort of like a jelly rather than that horrible sticky consistency you usually get.
Yeah.
Much more refreshing. And we do actually have Morton give us a little bundle every month in my competition, so there's a chance to win that for all the patrons, so they can try what you try. But Kilian Jornet, he uses Morton now as well.
Okay.
I just got an announcement about that the other day. Cool. Of course Eliud Kipchoge uses it, and Mo Farah as well. So every time I talk about it, I say obviously it makes you faster, because it must do. But it's still working for you, so it's proven again.
Well, I don't know why it hasn't. Not as many trail runners use it, I don't think. It's like when I first heard of it was more on the road racing scene. But I think the carbohydrate intake is like definitely really high if you're looking for that. Yeah,
I think it might be to do with the fact that it's very expensive. It's really expensive compared to a lot of stuff that you can buy over here, at least for running. And there's definite kind of road running brands and trail running brands. So I think they're just now trying to cross over into the trail running market because they've seen that it works really well. I think also sometimes trail runners, they're a bit less sort of performance based than the road runners, so they don't mind as much. But once the top athletes start using it, because like you guys are really performance based, then I'm sure it will trickle down into the like main consciousness as well. So Ruth is actually watching live. We've just answered her question, and she says that is so helpful about the nutrition, and she's got that book, the Stacy Sims book, as well.
Oh, sweet.
She's ploughing her way through at the moment, so she says that was really great, thank you. And she also has another part to her question. She wants to know, like, when you're struggling, like at Lavaredo when you were being sick, and like, when you're finding it really tough and you haven't got your trail legs, like what goes through your head to make you keep going when you're struggling? Like, have you got any mantras or anything like that?
Well, it's all been your choice. Like, it's always my choice to race, and I'm in that situation. So I've only got myself there. And like, to look in the bigger picture of racing and running, we're very fortunate to be able to do what we can do. And so it's kind of just getting out of your head what's telling you to stop in that, and just taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. And then I always find it best is just to break the race down into more manageable chunks. So say you're throwing up at one section, or you're just really struggling on this uphill, then just think, okay, at the next aid station, how many K away is it? It's 8K. And then kind of reassess things at the aid station and try and like get on more food. And then often I find in races when I do get into that negative headspace, it's because I've maybe fallen behind on nutrition or hydration, or maybe I just need a bit of a top up. And so that's always my first port of call. It's like, okay, drink a bit, eat a bit, then see how I feel. Still feeling bad, and then, okay, break the race into smaller, like manageable chunks. And then, yeah, as I said, just remember this is your choice. Like you put yourself on that start line, and like in the big scheme of things, it's just a race, and just get out. Like the main thing is just to enjoy it. Like I think that's why we're all on the start line. It's like we want to challenge ourselves, but also just enjoy this whole process, and just take a step back, take a deep breath, and remember all that.
Yeah, definitely. Wise words for sure. It's not like we're escaping a war zone or anything like that. No, exactly. It's just like, come on, it's a race. Like, you signed up for this. If you really don't like it. Next day, no one's going to remember it anyway. So. Yeah. Even though at the time you're like, this is the biggest news ever. Like, I'm going to put it on Instagram. It's definitely good advice, isn't it? Just to like suck it up a little bit. And now we've got the final couple of questions. We've got about New Zealand, where you are based. So Catherine Ramsden is curious about your thoughts on if you've ever done a New Zealand park run, which she thinks are going to start up this coming weekend. And she also wants to see if you're willing to share Jacinda Ardern with us.
I've never done a park run, and
haven't you?
Yeah, no, I haven't. But I did see in the news that like the UK was wanting Jacinda Ardern to be over, and it was something like the UK should declare war on New Zealand and then forfeit, and then somehow
surrender.
Somehow Jacinda would be able to lead the UK.
Well, there are a lot more people in the UK. Like I always think, like everyone's like, oh, New Zealand's done really well, but there are only 5 million people there, and that's like half the population of London. Yes. So it's not quite a fair comparison. But she is awesome, isn't she? Like going on about the Tooth Fairy, and just the way that she handles things is just so fresh and modern and young.
Yeah, she's just really, I don't know, she really connects with everyone as well. And she, like, if you see her Instagram and stuff, she'll post about like her toddler who's just put like thrown up on her or something like that. So everyone can kind of relate, like the everyday person can relate to her. But as you said, New Zealand, we're an island in the bottom of the world. Like we had a bit of heads up about Corona, and we're only 5 million people. So that's all played in our favor. I think if you're wanting to look at a country who's done it really well, and also as a female leader, it's Taiwan, where they're just, they're 150 miles off the coast of China. They have not closed down their economy or anything. They haven't had lockdown.
Wow.
Which is really.
How did they do that? Yeah. Like that's incredible.
It's the way their contact tracing has worked. And also in Taiwan and a lot of Asian countries, like what authority says, people follow. So I think that's probably another reason why they've had a lot of success. I think they've only had 7 deaths as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Blimmin' democracies, huh? Yeah. Get a bit of communism back. Get a bit of rope following back. I know. We're like all for like, oh, it's my rights, it's this, it's that. Yeah. It's our right to just die. Yeah. Well, anyway, COVID aside, Ruth says you need to do a park run, Ruth. It's great fun. Okay. So, is there one in Wanaka? Do you know?
Yeah, there is one in Wanaka actually. Yeah, I just haven't done it though. Yeah. I was going to do.
It would be a bit mean if you did it though, because you'd probably go and smash the record, and it's supposed to be for like normal people, isn't it? To just go and enjoy running. So yeah,
there's some fast people that live in Wanaka, so I wouldn't be too confident. Yeah.
Do you fancy doing that kind of thing? Because you did mention like doing the speed work at 5k pace. So like, is parkrun something that you would consider?
Well, actually, when Europe and everything with Corona happened, my coach Jono and I, we decided to do cross country races in New Zealand. So that's kind of, it was going to be putting on spikes, and I think women race like 8K. So yeah, I think it's important. Even though I haven't done a park run, is to always like mix it up and do different distances or disciplines that you normally wouldn't do, and it kind of helps you make you a more all-round runner. Because last year I did a road marathon as well. So yeah, just do different things to mix it up. I think it keeps it interesting too.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to do lots of different things as well. There's people on the live chat, they're shouting at me saying Taiwan is not communist. I didn't mean to say that Taiwan was communist. I just meant to say that rather than a democracy where we all think we can do what we like, let's get some bits where we say they're coming back to me now saying like communism isn't a good idea either. I'll stay out of. How about I stay out of politics, because I obviously don't know what I'm on about. But it's interesting, isn't it? The different kind of political structures that lead people to obey or not obey. So anyway, the final question that we have is from Jasper Kiernan, who says, awesome guest. Question to Ruth is, the Instagram photos that you post of your adventures make me want to take a trip to New Zealand. If I travel all that way, I would like to do a race. Which trail ultras in the South Island would you recommend?
Okay, it's easy. Hands down, I would recommend Old Ghost Ultra. I grew up on the west coast of the South Island in this region, and it's probably a more remote area of New Zealand, a bit more rugged and a bit more wild. But I did the ultra for the first time this year. It's 85k of single track, and it essentially was built for mountain biking, but it's also, you can run it as well. And they have the ultra. It's in I want to say the end of Feb. It's open to about 300 people, I think. So it's quite a small number, but the race directors have done like an amazing job. It's a really intimate and genuine race experience, and it's perfectly well organized, and by far my favorite race that I've done in New Zealand, on the South Island, definitely. So Old Ghost Ultra is the one to do.
Old Ghost Ultra. That sounds like a cool name. Yeah. Is it based on a scary story or anything? Has it got a history?
Not on a scary story, but it was like a route for gold mining on the west coast. Yeah. So if you look up Old Ghost, you'll see some photos of the trail and that, and it's got some pretty good views and all runnable. Not too much for it. I want to say just over 2,600 maybe over the 85k. Yeah.
Yeah, so a nice distance there. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Is that the only one that you would recommend, or are there any other races?
There's other ones. There's one called Shotover Moonlight Marathon, and that's in Queenstown. So they have the 42 marathon distance. I think they have a 30k, and I think next year they're adding a 56k. So that's another one. If you're looking for like a really classic New Zealand race, Kepler, which is in December, the first weekend of December, and so Kepler is one of our great walks. It's 60k, and also I'd say it's probably the race that's been around for the longest, and within Kiwi is probably the most prestigious kind of ultra, even though it's a shorter one. So it's a loop and 60k, not a lot of vert, but like amazing scenery because it's on a great walk. So probably they're my 3 I would recommend.
That sounds amazing. It's so good. I went to New Zealand like a few years ago now, and we did the route burn track, and we did cool. We did like Capel's route burn out and back, and then green burn back down. So we did like a big loop, like 7 days. We went to Milford Sound and saw the big waterfalls, and got covered in sandflies. It was brilliant. But yes, it would just be so great to go to New Zealand. It's just such a wonderful country and such a brilliant place to train for trail running. I can see why you went back there. But I just want to say a big thank you to you for coming on tonight. Thank you for waking up early, twice. And it's been really great to hear all about the training plans that you've got going with Vert Run. So if anybody is keen for that, then all you have to do is just Google Vert Run and it will come up, and you can check out the website, and it's got tons of different training plans on. If you don't want to train for an ultra in a city, there's other stuff that you can do that the other athletes have written. And yeah, I'm just going to read out some nice things that people have said about you here, Ruth, tonight. So let me just read out John Gardner. Oh yes, John Gardner was very pleased. He said, "Very good answer. Thank you, Ruth."
Thanks, John.
Sorry, there's just now a load of chat about communism.
Sorry.
No, that's my bad. I really shouldn't enter into politics. I literally know nothing. It was like Nadia says South Island is super nice, offers lots of great running opportunities. Kerry says she hopes to run the old Ghost Road one day.
Awesome.
Hello from a fellow Kiwi in Timaru.
Oh, hey. Yeah.
And Ruth says, "Great interview, Claire and Ruth. Absolutely loved it. All the best in your future races, Ruth."
Thanks, Ruth.
So yeah, like before you go, are you planning to do, have you got any races for the autumn? Like, oh, it's not autumn over there, isn't it? But like into October, are you guys starting to run races again?
Yeah, so we're pretty much, all races can go ahead in New Zealand, but it's coming into our winter, so we don't have so many our trail season kind of ended at the end of summer, but cross-country season is starting, and I'm actually hoping that some races maybe in Europe will happen. I know Transvolcania was moved to October. Les Templiers in France is in October. Then the Golden Trail World Series on the Azores, I think it's in November.
Yeah, I just got an email about that today, and you came third in that last year, didn't you? So going for a crack at that again. Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
I think it was. I can't. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it said third in the press release that I saw.
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
No,
don't do yourself out of a podium position. We'll check it later.
Yeah. I'll just see what happens in Europe, and what if races do go ahead or if they don't, and if they don't, then it's okay. We'll see just bring it to next year.
Just do some New Zealand ones for now, and but maybe spending October in Europe, that would be exciting, wouldn't it? At least you could just get one plane over and just stay for a whole month.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. More people have written in now because there's a 90-second delay, and they know that we're about to finish now. Simon says, "What a great interview with a fab guest. Learned loads of great tips to take into my ultra running."
Cool.
Rich Simpson says, "Great tips there, thank you." Gordon Parton says, "Thanks for the fab tips." And Kerry Hanley says, "Great interview, ladies. Thumbs up." So I think we can safely conclude that it has been a wonderful evening / morning for you. Thank you so much for getting up so early, and it was fantastic to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone who joined in as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'll have a great day, and I hope you get some good trail runs in for the rest of the year.
Yeah, will do.
Bye.
Yep.